Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where it is you reside on this beautiful blue planet of ours, of course. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining me, Paul Outdoors. I'm walking into the centre of a 40-acre deciduous, beautiful English woodland that I have permission to use. I'm here to recce it today, to reacquaint myself with it, because I haven't been familiar with it now for some time. Paid it the odd visit. It's owned by a good friend of mine, and it's been in his ownership now since the early 1990s. And as well as purchasing the wood, he bought himself a vintage bus and renovated the bus and has lived in the bus ever since. He has reintroduced the art of traditional woodland management, including coppicing, which produces various materials that he turns into products and sells, and it's what he derives the majority of his income from. So just going to have a walk around and show you the beauty of this place and its potential, and also some examples of how it is now back in a traditional management cycle, and the wood is now being revitalised and its biodiversity maintained because of it. A feature of this woodland, as I walk in, and I will see further on as I walk around the wood and onto the narrower paths and tracks, is on either side of the paths there is evidence of management, of felling, and a lot of timber stored on the side of the woodland, on the woodland floor. There's a good example here where we have a canopy, and there are many of these dotted around the wood where my friend has worked certain areas, and then a lot of the material that has been derived from managing these areas is stored and being seasoned. So we have what is here a log pile, a log store, and many tons of logs have been sold from this woodland to people locally. And what they're also used for is to make charcoal, and here we see the residue of a charcoal burn which took place yesterday, I think it was. My friend had an order for 60 bags of charcoal from a local garage and food outlet, and I'll walk further down the track and show you the limestone kilns where that charcoal was produced. So the residue of that charcoal burn is sitting there now, just smouldering, as you can see, and there's evidence of a lot of that around the wood. It's another wood store, so these are a feature as we walk around. Another one here on the right. As I say, this is just walking into the woodland. This is the main access road, which, as you can see, is quite busy, quite well established. But the character of the woodland does change once we get into the main living area and beyond that. So I'm now almost at the area where the path comes to an intersection and the habitation is. But before we have a look at that, as I mentioned before, here are the charcoal kilns. That we use to produce those 60 bags of charcoal to fulfill an order. And beyond the charcoal kilns we have A woodland full of birds, bluebells, wood anemones, yellow celandine, violet and a plethora of other species. Absolutely beautiful. What a place to live. What a place to have permission to visit and camp. Not far from the charcoal kilns is this beautiful vintage bus, which as I alluded to earlier is, or has been, my friend's home for the last 20 plus years. It's a beautiful bus, it has all the mod cons, so everything that you would wish for is in that bus. We have a beautiful outdoor bathroom come toilet as well, which my friend crafted and made himself. I refer to him as my friend because I want to protect his identity and anonymity, so forgive me for that. And as we swing around, we now look at what will be my friend and his partner's new residence when it's finished. Planning permission has been a long time coming for this permanent wooden dwelling, but I personally think it's going to be worth that wait, and all of the wood that's going into this wonderful structure is derived from this woodland, including the wooden tiles on the roof. Just left the habitation zone and walking now deeper into the woods from north to south, and all around me is a woodland floor covered in bluebells, cuckoo flowers, wood anemones. Everywhere you look, stunning. And the smell, the scent is intoxicating. You can see here an example of derelict coppice. So this woodland in previous times would have been traditionally managed and split into what are called coops. Coops meaning in French to cut. So 40-acre woodland would have potentially have been split into 7 different coops, and then the shrubs would have then been coppiced, i.e. cut to the ground to within about 3, 4, 5, 6 inches of the ground. And because the shrubs were on very vigorous established rootstocks, they would regenerate and regrow very quickly. So what was cut would be used to produce a myriad of products, tool handles, fencing spars, building materials, and where those cut pieces were taken from, buds would form around the rim of those cut stems and regenerate and produce new stems, which would be then coppiced at a later date, typically on a 7-year rotation. So you'd come back to the area you cut this year in 6, 7, 8 years time, depending on the size of the material, the diameter of the material that you wanted to produce. And here is an example of that, where we have these, this is hazel, but you have a multitude of stems coming up from the bottom of this coppice stool. So all of these will be cut shortly, or at some time, probably 2 to 3 inches, perhaps a little bit more from the woodland floor, and from around the edge of the cut new buds will form, which will produce more shoots which will grow very quickly and very vigorously, and on the cycle goes. So in this woodland, my friend has reintroduced this coppice cycle. As you can see, there's another example, and bigger ones as I pan around that in the past were coppiced, harvested on a cyclical basis. So as you moved around the woodland, there would be different stages of regeneration in the different areas. Forty acres is a lot of woodland to explore. It's going to take me a few more visits to do it justice. Takes us further up, and again lots of derelict coppice. With a carpet of bluebells and anemones, wood anemones, yellow celandines and cuckoo flowers. Starting to descend again now, and travelling the westerly direction in the wood. The canopy is a mixture of mainly oak, sweet chestnut, ash, silver birch, a little bit of poplar, and the dominant conifer species appears to be larch, which is nice, and the understory is mainly hazel, which coppices really well. There's some field maple, hawthorn, elder, and regenerating elm as well. So and I've also seen some spindle, which is a indicator of ancient woodland, which is always good. So good healthy mix. Dainty little deer track. We have here a beautiful oak tree with thick vines of wild clematis, old man's beard, climbing up into the canopy. Very thick, those. It's like the Amazon rainforest. Beautiful. Up and up they go, all the way up into the top of that canopy. Just heading back now to the car, up the access road after a wonderful few hours recce in the woodland, reacquainting myself with it, and I've just seen a group of fallow deer sort of cross in front of me. I did leave the action cam up for a couple of hours on one of the tracks, but not sure whether I picked anything up. I will not know until I get home, so something to look forward to. So like I said at the beginning, I want to keep the anonymity and privacy of my friend private. He's not a fan of being filmed, so I'm going to respect that. I'm going to keep the name of the wood to myself as well, although in the future there may be one or two of you who would like to join me here, because it's absolutely amazing place. No shortage of tree cover to hang a hammock or two or three. And the place is crisscrossed with streams. There's a beautiful spring which supplies my friend and his partner's drinking water. So all in all, a tremendous place, and I'm feeling really fortunate to have permission and access to it. So thank you for joining me. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, then by all means give it a thumbs down at your discretion. If you subscribe, thank you very much. If you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing, and I will look forward to seeing you in the next one as the car comes into sight. Thank you very much.